Well, now you're a member of the Country Music Hall of Fame, and let's talk a few moments about the Hall of Fame. How do you feel about being a member of this organization?
Well, I think it's a great honor, Harold. I think it was 1965 when I was voted in. I believe I was the third living member.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Roy Acuff, I'm sure Roy was the first one, and Tex Ritter, I suppose, was second. I was third, I think. And I think it's a great honor because your peers elected, they're the ones that back then, now I don't know how the voting is handled now, but back then it was people in your peers, most of them entertainers that voted for you to be in the Hall of Fame. And I think it's a great honor. It's about as great as you can get, I suppose, to be elected into the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. It's not by your fans, of course, that would be all right too, I suppose. But I think it's a little bit more, maybe when your peers say, well, you belong there, you've earned it. It makes it a little bit more special, I suppose. And I think it's a great honor. I don't know, you weren't there that night, but in '65, I remember, usually they say I talk too much, Justin says I talk too much on the midnight show. I don't get enough music in there. And he's right, sometimes I do. But that night I said, well, they can't accuse me of talking too much tonight because I can't think of what to say when they called me up there. I said, but I appreciate this honor, and about all I can say is I'm proud. I may not deserve this honor, but I'm proud somebody thought I did anyhow,
Well, you deserved it, that's for sure. We've talked about just about everybody that you've known down through the, excuse me, Splice. We've talked about quite a few people that you've known down through the years, and you have a new album, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on, and some of your favorite folks that participated in this album. But first, I want to talk about a club you played in recently out in Texas, a place called Gilley's. And a friend of yours didn't Willie go in the night before or the week before? How did that happen? Willie Nelson we're talking about.
Yes. Actually, I'm not sure just when Willie was in it. I played with, in fact, Willie had me on his picnic in Austin, the 4th of July, and I presume maybe he played this week or two before then, I'm not for sure. But he had recently played Gilley's, and then we played, I think we went into Gilley's on the 8th of July, after we played with Willie in Austin. And I had never played Gilley's on a Saturday night, I remember this. And anyhow, I kept seeing these cars coming, and, we're sitting out there in the bus, and someone says, I think you're going to have the biggest crowd that you've ever had here. And I said, well, we've never played it on a Saturday night. But anyhow, I think the real reason is that Waltz Across Texas had just been released as a single record from the album, with Willie singing with me on this record. And they've been playing it good. And it was, anyhow, to make a long story short, they had just enlarged Gilley's. It's always, it's been advertised as the largest nightclub in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and which it is. And they had just opened up another room the night we played there. They just got it open for that Saturday night. And they said that we set a new record. And I don't know, they claimed that they had around 7,000 people, but they had about, I think they sold 6,000 and some odd, 600 and some odd tickets, But they had some that slipped in, I think, or maybe guessed, But anyhow, they said that we broke all records, and that we beat Willie's record, they told me, by 226 people or something, Of course, this is funny in a way because Willie, I think, is one that's responsible maybe for creating a lot of interest in my new recording of Waltz Across Texas, by singing on there. And Willie, to me, has been a friend of many, many years.
Yes.
And he's, I think, about the biggest thing in our country music field right now. And I think a lot of people will agree with me. Of course, Waylon Jennings ain't doing bad either.
That's true. We'll talk about Willie a little bit later on. That brings up a question, though, that I would like to ask you, and I don't know if you can answer it or not.
I'll try.
Naturally, the audiences have changed since you first started in the business and had that first million-selling record. But how has it changed?
Well, this I don't know, Harold. I think we have a bigger audience out there now.
Is it a younger audience?
I think we have. Now we've always had some young people, of course, but I think that country music has grown and spread. Of course, radio and network radio, network television, I think has been a lot responsible for this. We're getting more exposure now than we've never got as much as I think we should have had or should have, and we still aren't. But I think we have been given more exposure now. I think it's just a matter of letting the people hear our kind of music. And as you say, it has changed, and some of it's been for the best, and some of it I don't agree with. But the point is now that people like my friend Willie has really captured the imagination of the younger people and the college kids, and I think it's great. I think it's made a great contribution to country music, because Willie Nelson is still, to me, he's still Willie Nelson. I've been a Willie Nelson fan for 25 years, and I haven't. He's still country as far as I'm concerned, and he a great writer and a great stylist, as we mentioned earlier about before we got on the air here about. I think most country entertainers are stylists. We're in country music, but we're a little bit different. Each person. Waylon has his own distinct style. Willie has his. Roy Acuff has his. Bill Monroe, Merle Haggard, Johnny Cash, on and on. Hank Williams had a different style. But now I think that we mentioned Elvis, whom I still always admired over the years, and I think it's a great loss that we lost him. But when Elvis came along, then he was the first to capture the younger college students, I think, and sort of they grew up on the rock and roll that they told Elvis he had to do to make money, and so I think maybe that they wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to real country music. We were still there, still selling records and on the Grand Ole Opry, and we had an audience. But now I think that audience is getting bigger, because some of these younger kids that discovered Willie Nelson. My own kid, they asked me when they heard Red-Headed Stranger. They asked me, said, "How well do you know Willie Nelson? And do you know anything about him?" I said, "Yeah, you're finally catching on to Willie, right?" And so a lot of the kids begin to dig Willie Nelson, because he wrote some great material and is a great performer and a great stylist, And so now I think this is helping country music as a whole. People like Willie, they now, and especially like since he's on the album, on Waltz Across Texas, I think more of them are listening to see what I've been doing all these years,
They're rediscovering you,
They're
too.
rediscovering, yeah, they are.
Yeah. How does that make you feel?
Well, it makes me feel older in one way.
Does it?
It makes me feel good, really, Harold, because I'm still doing basically what I've always done. I have a saying that I've said many times. I've written over 100 songs, but they weren't just cold written song. So I'm going to write a song. Most country writers are inspired by something that happened to them or something that happened to someone they know.
Yeah.
They just don't sit down and write a song. Very few. Most of them are inspiration songs that they write because they have a reason to write. So this is what makes country music to me the true American music, because the songs do have a meaning. And I used to tell some of the younger artists, I said, just remember this: mean what you sing and sing what you mean. If it don't mean something, don't sing it. And a writer back in New York one time asked me, said, "What do you say? You mean that the popular songs don't have meaning?" I said, "Some of them do, and some of them don't." I said, "Let me give you an idea." I said, "We have all types of songs, from Grandpa Jones' comedy song, and String Bean, the late String Bean, I said, but the songs, that they had a story, they had some sort of a purpose, you know. They was funny, or, you know, and we have sad songs, we have blues, any type of song you can think of. I said, but in the pop field, I said, let me give you one example of the most stupid song. It was a big million record seller probably, called "The Music Goes Around and Round and Comes Out Here." I said, now what kind of does that make sense to you now? And so he said, well, that's a pretty good idea. I said, I get what you mean now. I said, but in country music, I said, just pick out a country song and I'll show you that it has some sort of a meaning. Maybe a funny meaning, maybe a sad meaning, but it has something to it. It has a body to it. It's a song that people can identify with.
How many songs have you written? Do you know?
I don't know, Harold. I've got some that probably nobody will ever hear because I won't let them. I don't think they're very good. But I've had about probably over 100, a little over 100 songs altogether.
And you've recorded, I guess you've recorded most of them yourself,
Just
and
then
other people
about
pick them up.
80 or 90 of them at least,
Yeah. How many albums have you done over the years?
You know,
You ever keep a
I'm
count?
guessing. I don't, but my fan club, Norma Barthel, I think, told me that we have 30, I think, not as many as you probably would think. I think about 38 albums altogether now. It's been, counting the new one, this would be about 39, I guess, over the years.
We were talking about Willie a few moments ago. Willie was on your television show at one time, wasn't he?
Yes, back in the 60s, Willie was co-hosted on the Ernest Tubb syndicated show, and I think it was probably 64, 65 back in there somewhere.
For a few moments, let's talk about some of the folks who are appearing with you on this great album, The Legend and the Legacy. Willie's on there with you, of course. We've talked about Willie. How about Loretta Lynn?
Oh, she's my honey. You know, Loretta is not only a great performer and a great songwriter. She's written some very interesting, you know, and good songs. But she's a great person along with it, and I love her very much. And I'm so proud that she wanted to be on this album. I don't know whether you remember on the song that I think it's on "Thanks a Lot." She says, "I love you, Ernest Tubb," and I said, "I love you too, hon." You know, but I do. I call her my female Hank Williams. Now that's what she means to me. She's a great writer and a great performer.
And you met her when she and Mooney first came to town.
Yes, Teddy and Doyle, the Wilburn brothers, brought her by the record shop and asked me to let her sing on the Midnight Jamboree. She was on a record, I can't think of the song now, but it's on a Zero independent label,
Yes.
Zero label or something.
Since we're talking about Teddy and Doyle, you've probably known those boys since they came to the Opry back in the 40s, I guess.
Yes, I sure, I've known them. Well, in fact, I think I met them in Arkansas, maybe back when they had the family, more or less. I'm trying to think now for sure. I do know that. Seemed like I did. I'm not for sure, but I know I met them, of course, when they came here.
I know that the child labor law caught up with them here in Nashville. Teddy had to stand on a chair to reach the microphone out there at the Opry. But have you ever recorded with Teddy and Doyle?
Yeah. You see, they were on Decca Records. We were all on there for many years, and we did a couple of. I think "Hey Mr. Bluebird" was one of the
Yes.
was a pretty good selling record, and I can't. We did two records together, I believe, and then I'm trying to think. Then they put out Decca put out an album, I think, with sort of mixed different artists in there, and I was on their TV show back when they and Loretta had their TV show, you know.
Well, I know that you and Loretta recorded a hit album, or a couple of them, back in those Decca days.
Yeah, we had about 3 albums. I'm trying to think of the titles now. I know one of them was Ernest and Loretta Singing Again, and that was the third one, I think. And the first one was Mr. and Mrs. Used to Be.
Yes.
I believe was the title of the first one. And anyhow, it was a lot.
Sweet Thing was a pretty big one too.
Sweet Thing was that was the single that was included in an album.
Yes.
I think we got the single out and then the album later. I think that Sweet Thing was probably one of the biggest records we had. I'm very proud of those albums because, feeling as I do about Loretta, she's such an honest. She personifies what we were talking about, being honest in country music. Sing what you mean and mean what you sing. And to me, she and Hank Williams are. I think they tell the whole story. That they're what country music is all about. When we dance together, my world's in disguise. It's a fairyland tale that's come true. And when you look at me with those stars in your eyes, I could waltz across Texas with you. Waltz across Texas with you in my arms. Waltz across Texas with you. Like a storybook ending, I'm lost in your charms, and I could waltz across Texas with you. Now here's Charlie McCoy. Now here's Charlie Daniels. Now let me hear you, Willie boy.
My heartaches and troubles are just up and gone. The moment that you come in view, and with your hand in mine, dear, I could dance on and on, and I could waltz across Texas with you.
Waltz across Texas with you in my arms. Waltz across Texas with you. Like a storybook ending, I'm lost in your charms, and I could waltz across Texas with you. Make my home 1,000,000 miles from here. No letter's gonna reach me in one single year. I'm starting out to roam, and I'm never coming home. I'm gonna make my home 1,000,000 miles from here. No need to tell me now that you'll be true. I'm sick and tired of everything you do. I'm leaving you behind. I'm gonna ease my troubled mind. You're gonna wake up someday, sugar, feeling blue. I'm gonna make my home 1,000,000 miles from here. No letter's gonna reach me in one single year. I'm starting out to roam, and I'm never coming home. I'm gonna make my home 1,000,000 miles from here. Oh, Pete Metta. You're free to do the things your heart desires.
So spin your wheels and baby, wear out your tires. But someday you'll be flat and you'll wonder where I'm at. You can look for me, but babe, I won't be there. I'm gonna make my home 1,000,000 miles from here. No letter's gonna reach me in one single year. I'm starting out to roam, and I'm never coming home. I'm gonna make my home 1,000,000 miles from here. Thank you.
I'm Scott Weichel. You're listening to our special tribute to the Texas troubadour Ernest Tubb tonight as we hear stories from his career in his own words with this wonderful interview from 1979. And we're playing some of Ernest's greatest songs, including some of the duets that he did on the Legend and Legacy project. So sit back and continue to enjoy our great tribute to Ernest Tubb as we continue with My Kind of Country here on MKOCRadio.com.
Bluebird, bluebird, hey Mr. Bluebird, hey Mr. Bluebird.
Hey, Mr. Bluebird, come stay with me. And you can build your nest in my best apple tree. Bring Mr. Sunshine along with you. Ain't seen that friend of mine since all my dreams fell through. I've been so lonesome that I could die, and tears like raindrops keep falling from my eyes. So Mr. Bluebird, please be a friend and teach this blue, blue heart of mine to sing again.
Hey Mr. Bluebird, hey Mr. Bluebird.
Hey Mr. Bluebird, come stay with me.
And you can build your nest in my best apple tree.
Bring Mr. Sunshine along with you.
Ain't seen that friend of mine since all my dreams fell through.
I've been so lonesome that I could die, and tears like raindrops keep falling from my eyes. So Mr. Bluebird, please be a friend and teach this blue, blue heart of mine to sing again. And teach this blue, blue heart of mine to sing again.
Each night brings back my dreams of you. I cry and cry, I feel so blue. You broke my heart, so why pretend? 'Cause the sign ahead reads journey's end. Marty?
River rolling along, skies are turning gray, clouds are moving in, I've lost my way.
I tried to smile, but why pretend? 'Cause the sign ahead reads journey's end. Oh, come in, Billy Bird. sitting all alone beneath the stars. I'm wondering where on earth you are, thinking of the things that might have been, but the sign ahead reads journey's end. Eddie and Doyle now.
River rolling along, skies are turning gray, clouds are moving in, about lost my way.
I tried to smile, but why pretend? 'Cause the sign ahead reads journey's end. Thanks a lot. I got a broken heart, that's all I've got. You made me cry, and I cried a lot. I lost your love, baby, thanks a lot. You told our friends as I was passing by that you're not sorry, that you made me cry. You said I deserved just what I got. Well, if that's how you feel, honey, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I got a broken heart, that's all I've got. You made me cry, and I cried a lot. I lost your love, honey, thanks a lot. Oh, Pete Mitchell.
Ernest Tubb, I love you.
And I love you too, Loretta. Also, I love to hear you sing, honey.
You wanted a fool, and I played the part. Now all I've got is a broken heart. We loved a little, yeah, we laughed a lot. Then you were gone, honey, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. I got a broken heart, that's all I've got. You made me cry, and I cried a lot. I lost your love, honey, thanks a lot. I slipped out of the house about sundown while Mama was a-washing her hair. And you can bet your bottom dollar she'll come looking for me when she finds that I'm not there. And if she catches her sweet thing running around, I know there'll be the devil to pay. She'll come blowing like a cyclone right through that door, and I can hear exactly what she'll say.
Well, has anybody here seen Sweet Thing? I got a notion he'll be headed this way. 'Cause when my sweet thing is out tomcatting around, he finds a sandbox like this to play. I wanna tell all your barroom roses, if my sweet thing does happen by, you'd better
I give my baby all my money on payday, except a little she don't know that I got. 'Cause there's a cute little waitress at the corner cafe, and she seems to like me quite a lot. Well, we were sitting in this back booth having a talk, and she's believing every word that I said. When the door blew open, Loretta walked in yelling loud enough to wake the dead.
Well, has anybody here seen Sweet Thing? I got a notion he'll be headed this way. 'Cause when my sweet thing is out tomcatting around, he finds a sandbox like this to play. I wanna tell all your barroom roses, if my sweet thing does happen by, you'd better take my advice, and if you blink more than twice, you better have something in your eye.
She ain't kidding
You
either.
better take my advice, and if you blink more than twice, you better have something in your eye.
Now we go our separate ways, Mr. and Mrs. used to be. For oh so long I've loved you, I know that you loved me. But time moved on and we grew far apart. It's not the way I want it, but the judge has set you free. Although you're still the first one in my heart. I just don't understand it, how people such as we could know the love that we have known, but somehow disagree. I hope that you'll be happy.
The same to you from me.
Now we go our separate ways, Mr. and Mrs. used to be.
At first it was like heaven on earth for you and me, but heaven sure has changed a lot since then. I can't put all the blame on you, for some belongs to me. What started out as heaven reached an end.
I guess we could have made it, but pride stood in our way. For love to live, it must have words we never seem to say.
And so I'll say goodbye now.
Kiss the kids for me. Now we go our separate ways, Mr. and Mrs. used to be.
What's your relationship with Johnny Cash?
Johnny, I've known Johnny since I thought I heard his first record, but actually it was his second record. It's a long story, and I'll sort of cut it down. One of the fellows that used to work at the Ernest Tubb record shop moved to Knoxville, and so one morning he heard a record by Johnny Cash on Sun called let me see, It's So Doggone Lonesome.
Mm-hmm.
And he came to my home, and I was still asleep on a Sunday morning. And when I woke up and went out to get my paper, sticking behind my screen door was a Sun record, and I had never heard of Johnny Cash. So Doggone Lonesome. And he left a note that says, "This old boy can't sing, but this is a good song for you." And I went and played it. The record was a little little warped. I think it got too hot out there behind the door. And but I said to myself, I said, this boy can sing, you know. And what happened there is I put this song in my next album. I recorded Johnny's song, and eventually I got to meet, of course, we began to hear about Johnny Cash. But I kidded this friend of mine. I said, come here, I want you to meet. Johnny was on the midnight show one night, you know, and I said, I want you to meet that boy that you said couldn't sing very good, you know. And it was really embarrassing to him, you know. And I said, I won't tell him what you said, you know. Anyhow, I took him back in the office, and he met Johnny. But this is my first experience of hearing Johnny is on this record. And I kidded my friend about it for a long time. He said, boy, I said, no wonder. I said, aren't you glad you got rid of me? So that's how I couldn't even pick a good artist when I heard one, you know. But,
Charlie, you know, a lot of people don't know that Charlie Daniels used to be a sideman out the Opry.
Well, you know, that's something I didn't know, really.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
He was. He had picked out there a couple of times, and of course you were talking about stylists a few moments ago. Charlie is a prime example of somebody who's doing his own thing.
Right. He's well, Merle Haggard's got a song out, you know, now called "My Own Hat."
Right.
And which I think is a very good song. I like it very much. And I think that song fits Charlie Daniels.
Yeah.
And what he's doing, I like what I've heard so far. This fiddling thing is just something else that knocks me out. It's so different, you know. The Charlie Daniels and the
Yes.
what's the title of this?
Well, his one not too many months ago was "The Devil Went Down to Georgia."
Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Where they have a fiddling contest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And but getting back to Johnny, I was instrumental in Johnny coming to the Opry, and we worked together on quite a few tours, you know. And then he wanted to go to California, which I hate to see him go out there. But he finally came back home. You know, he's not on the Opry, but he's back in Nashville now.
You know, a lot of the fans probably don't know, but on this album, The Legend and the Legacy, this is the first duet you've done with Justin.
Yes. That is something unusual too, because one of the things, see, when Justin left college, I had him in college, you know, and he wrote me, and I found out through a friend of mine that he wasn't doing too well, and I called him up and I said, what's the matter? And to make a long story short, he finally said, well, Daddy, I'd like to sing. I want to be in music. In fact, I had discovered that he had a three-piece band down there and playing some clubs while he was going to college, you know. And he didn't know my friend, I said, well, he'll tell me sooner or later. So finally he told me. I said, well, why aren't you doing good? He said, well, I've been playing music 3 nights a week, you know. And I said, oh, my. Anyhow, to make this long story short, I said, what do you want to do, son? I want you to be happy. So what do you want to do? He said, I want to be in the music. I said, well, come home and we'll talk about it. So he came home Christmas, and he said, he made me a deal. He said, I don't want you to do anything except continue my allowance for 6 months, and if I can't make a living in 6 months, I'll go back to college. I said, that's a good deal. And he said, I may ask you for advice, but nothing else, you know. Anyhow, he said, if I make it, I want to do it on my own, you know. And so I said, well, here's advice I'm going to give you. I said, I have a friend in Gallatin that has a radio station, and I heard that he could use a new disc jockey, and that'd be a good experience for you to learn how to talk. So why don't you go out and ask him about it? So he went out, and he wound up working as a disc jockey for about a year, a little over, you know, out at Gallatin, WHIN?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And which he told me later, so that was a great experience for me. He learned more about what was happening and what people wanted to hear, you know what I mean? It was a great experience. And then, and actually he said, don't you say anything to Decca. Don't say anything to the Opry. If I can do it on my own, but just don't you open your mouth about me. So I want to do it on my own. So that was a deal we made, and he got his own record contract. He got on the Grand Ole Opry. I didn't say one word. But they put him on the Opry. I think he was about 20, 21, 2 years old when he got on the Opry. but he got on Decca, and he and Goldie Hill had a pretty good hit record. Looking Back to See, and
Yes.
Justin had some very good ones.
And he's written some good ones.
Oh, he's to me he's great as far as writing song. He's written most any type you can think of. He's
Yes.
written it. He's kind of like Hank Williams, there.
We've been talking about your son, Justin Tubb. Justin is not the only child you have.
No, I got
You got a bunch of them. don't you?
I got 6 more.
As a matter of fact, you have two families, really, don't you?
Yeah, I have Justin and Elaine
Yeah.
by my first marriage, and I have 5 children by my second marriage, and starting with Earlene and Gail. Gail is my personal secretary now and works at our music publishing company and the record shop also. And Earlene is my school teacher. And then Ernest Tubb Jr. came along. Tinker, we called him. He won't let me call him. He don't want me to call him Tinker anymore, but I still do. But
And he wants to be a singer too, doesn't he?
yes, he's doing very good. He's been singing since he's about 4 years old. 4 or 5, and he's been on the midnight show. And he traveled with us in the summer when he's out of school. And he's finishing up college next month. This coming month, October. He will finish. He majored in physical ed. In fact, he's going to teach. If he doesn't stay in the music business, he wants to teach. So he will be ready to teach after next month. But he says he's going to try the music first. So we'll see what happens. I think he'll do all right.
Down through the years, you've had a lot of people who have backed you up. One being Jack Green, who was out of town when this album was done, or we'd hear Jack Green singing with you. But there's another old boy that you admire very much who did join you on the album, and I'm talking about Cal Smith.
I'm very, very fond of Cal. He's, to me, he's one of my favorite people as well as one of my favorite singers. I didn't know this till after I'd hired Cal, but he said he heard me sing way back when he's a little kid out in California, And so finally, Jack Drake, the late Jack Drake, that played bass with me and helped me keep my group together for many years. Jack was with us 24 years. Well, he's the one that met Cal when Cal had his band out there in the 60s, early or late 50s, I guess. So when I needed a front man, a singer, what we call a front man, well, Jack remembered Cal Smith and said, and I couldn't remember Cal, really. I'd heard him sing, but I hadn't really listened, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And when you're on tour like that, sometimes I'm on the bus and I don't know what's happening inside. But on Jack's word, he said he sings a little bit like you and a little bit like Hank Thompson. I said, well, I won't hold that against him. I said, we'll try him out. So that's how I got a hold of Cal. We called him and he came to Nashville.
How long did he work with you?
I'd say about 6 years,
Is that right?
6.5 years, something like that, and done a great job. Cal was a fine MC as well as a good solid country singer, and I'm so proud that I was successful in getting Cal out on his own, and Dave Cap, the late Dave Cap, that recorded me on Decca, and later he left Decca Records and started Cap Records.
Yes.
Well, I believed in Cal Smith, so I called Dave and asked him if he would record him, and he said, well, I've never heard of him, and I said, well, do you want me to send you a tape or something? He said, no. I said, if you recommend him, he said, just go ahead, I'll have them, Paul Coyne, to go ahead and record him. And anyhow, that's how Cal got on Cap Records, and later MCA, Decca became MCA, and they bought Cap Records, and so Cal wound up on the same label that I was on all those years,
Before we start talking about some of the other folks who are on this album with you, I'd like to talk for just a few moments about how this album came about. It was a complete surprise to you.
Yes, it's really, and I'm still a little surprised, But Pete Drake, we mentioned Jack Drake,
Yes.
my bass player, the late Jack Drake. And I've known Pete since he was a little kid over in Atlanta, Used to come backstage when we play over there, you know. I remember when he worked at a supermarket over there, and he had his first steel guitar and everything. You know. But anyhow, after I became disassociated with MCA, I wanted Pete to produce my records, you know. And so we came in and recorded, and Pete was going to shop around for a label. And to get away from that story, it finally wound up that he created a label, and some other recording labels said they was interested, but they wanted me to re-record again. They didn't like what Pete had done with me, you know. And I said, well, if they don't like it, then I don't want to record for them. So anyhow, to make a long story short, Pete created the First Generation label, and we released an album, 5 old songs and 5 new ones. And so a little bit later on, Pete called me and said, Willie Nelson would like to maybe make a record with you, and also Waylon Jennings. And I said, well, okay. And he said, I told him you'd want to use the Troubadours. I said, well, I most certainly do, you know, which I've always used them. And anyhow, I said, now if they want to maybe add one of their musicians or something, I said, as long as we'll keep it country, I'll be happy, be honored to record a record with them. And I said, when you work it out, let me know. Well, Pete says that when I'd be in town, they wouldn't be. You know, we just never seemed to get together. And so the months passed on by, and we needed another album. I came in and recorded 2 or 3 more sessions of the older songs. And unbeknownst to me, Willie and Waylon, or one of them, I think it's Willie, said, why don't we maybe just do an album, you know? And we come in and tape, and Waylon wants to be on there, and maybe some others, you know.
Yeah.
And anyhow, the next thing I knew, 6 or 7 months had done passed by, and Pete called, wanted me to come in and do 5 more songs. So I decided to put a double album out. And I wondered about that, you know. But anyhow, I came in and recorded 5 more songs. Well, over these months, these people, like Pete said, Loretta Lynn heard about the album, and she called. Some of them called. Willie called some of them, you know. Merle Haggard, Johnny Cash, Charlie Rich, Marty Robbins, Johnny Paycheck, and you know, I've got to look at the list myself because I still haven't got everybody in. Cal Smith, of course, and as you mentioned, Jack Green was out of town, and they didn't get him in time to do it. Anyhow, so I come in and do 5 more songs, and I go in the studio, and Pete, I presume, was going to play me back the playbacks, you know, let me listen to what we recorded that night. And instead, he starts playing something that we did 9 months earlier, Waltz Across Texas, that we had re-recorded, you know. And here comes Willie Nelson singing. I said, what is this? He said, just listen. And the tapes, had all these tapes together. And here comes Johnny Cash and Cal Smith and Merle Haggard. And I said, what are you doing?
And Chet Atkins.
Yeah,
and
Chet
Charlie
Atkins,
McCoy.
yeah. And I said, what have you done? And he just laughed, and I couldn't believe it. He said, these people they heard about Willie and Waylon, so they heard about them wanting to do a tribute to you. So we decided that we'd make an album, and said there's so many of them wanted to be on, and said that we had to make a double album. And that was the first I knew about it. He said, now wait a minute now. I said, you got to come back in here, because Merle said you had to say, pick it out, Merle. Merle played guitar on one of the numbers, you know.
Yes.
And as well as singing. He said, you got to come back in and do some on tapes and do some ad-libs so we can get this album out. So we got all the tapes made. But you're not on there saying, come in, Johnny, and come in, Merle, you know. And so that's the first I knew about it. And they said they wanted to get it out on February the 9th for my birthday, you know. So I did the ad-libs, and February the 9th, the album was released. That's the first time I saw it as a complete album.
I do my best to hide this low-down feeling. I try to make believe there's nothing wrong, but they're always asking me about you, darling, and it hurts me so to tell them that you're gone. If they'd ask me, I guess I'd be denying, that I'd been unhappy all along. But if they heard my heart, they'd hear it crying. Where's my darling when she coming home? I ask myself a million times what's right for me to do. To try to lose my blues alone or hang around for you. Well, I make it pretty good until that moon comes shining through. And then I get so doggone lonesome. Stand still when you're a-waiting. Sometimes I think my heart is stopping too. One lonely hour seems forever. 60 minutes more to wait for you. But I guess I'll keep waiting till you're with me. 'Cause I believe that loving you is right. But I don't care if the sun don't rise tomorrow, if I can't have you with me tonight. Well, I know I'll keep on loving you, 'cause true love can't be killed. I ought to get you off my mind, but I guess I never will. I could have a dozen others, but I know I'd love you still, 'cause I get so doggone lonesome.
I'm Scott Weichel. You're listening to our very special tribute to the Texas troubadour Ernest Tubb tonight. We're playing this wonderful interview from 1979 where Ernest talks about his great career in his own words. And, of course, a lot of great songs from Ernest Tubb through all the years, including some of these wonderful duets from the Legend and the Legacy Project. Hope you're enjoying this very special tribute as we continue right here on MKOCRadio.com.
When the postman delivered a letter, it filled her dear heart full of joy. But she didn't know till she read the inside. It was the last one from her darling boy.
Dear Mom,
Dear Mom, was the way that it started.
I miss you so much.
I miss you so much, it went on.
But Mom, I didn't know that I loved you so.
But I'll prove it when this war is won.
I'm writing this down in a trench, Mom.
Don't scold if it
isn't so neat.
You know
as you did when I was a kid.
And I'd come home with mud on my feet. The
captain just gave us our orders.
And Mom, we will carry them through. I'll finish
this letter the first chance I get.
But now
I'll just say
I love you.
I love you.
Then the mother's old hands began to tremble, and she fought against tears in her eyes. But they came unashamed for there was no name, and she knew that her darling had died. That night as she knelt by her bedside, she prayed,
God
Lord
above, hear my plea, and protect all the sons
who
are fighting tonight.
And dear God, keep America free. There's a new star in heaven tonight, the brightest of them all up there. As we gaze at the sky, we wonder why that the Lord took our baby so fair.
For he was as sweet as a rose. His eyes were so big, bright and blue, and it made me so glad. They said he favors his dad, and my wife said he's the image of you.
Now you should see our baby's bud. It's pink and buttered with gold. Though it's not complete, but on the first sheet, our darling's life story is told.
It tells of the day that he came to add more joy to our home. After 7 short weeks, our master did speak, and now Roger Dale is gone.
But I know that he's happy up there. I can vision each action and look. Friends, as you travel on, please remember this song, for it's written in our baby's book. After the war was over, I was coming home to you. I saw a rainbow at midnight out on the ocean blue. Let me hear you, Marty.
Stars in heaven were shining. The moon gave its light from above. I saw your face in that rainbow and it made me think of our love.
Reggie Young, come in.
We'll build a home in the country and make all our dreams come true. There we will make a heaven, sweetheart, or just we two.
Here we will live so happy and have a baby or two, and we'll name them after the rainbow, because it reminds me of you.
Our land. After this life is over and our journey here is through, we'll move to the land of the rainbow and live in the starry blue. Are you thinking that I wasn't meant for you? Could it be you believe that I've been untrue? But listen, sweetheart, this just cannot be, 'cause you're the only good thing that's happened to me. We have our ups and downs, like all lovers do, but you know in your heart that I worship you. So don't ever think of setting me free, 'cause you're the only good thing that's happened to me.
Now, little Pete Drake. I'll sing it pretty, Charlie.
Well, have you ever think that I don't love you? I'm not satisfied with the things that you do. I want you to know and to please understand there's nothing in all the world with the touch of your hand.
Yes, we have our ups and downs, like all lovers do, but you know in your heart that I worship you. So don't ever think of setting me free, 'cause you're the only good thing that's happened to me. my way to Italy from the Gulf of Mexico, riding on a tanker, feeling mighty low. My good gal's behind me, no loving for so long. I'm going back to Texas, for that's where I belong. Nights are so lonely on the ocean, too much time to dream of yesterday. If only I could carry out my notion and hit the trail for Texas right away. I'll pick it pretty, Merle. Might as well sing it too, son.
On my way to Italy from the Gulf of Mexico, riding on a tanker, feeling mighty low. My good gal's behind me, no loving for so long. I'm going back to Texas, 'cause that's where I belong.
I never thought when I was leaving,
I never thought of leaving,
I could get so blue out on the sea.
no.
But I'll bet you after all this grieving, it's that good old Texas soil for me.
And me too.
On my way to Italy from the Gulf of Mexico, riding on a tanker, feeling mighty low. My good gal's behind me, no loving for so long. I'm going back to Texas, well, that's where I belong.